Hello, World Wide Web. Welcome back to my stock channel. This is James, your favorite ticker picker. We're doing a quick series on Bitcoin mining computers, mining computer manufacturers, and the miners themselves. This one is called HIVE. HIVE is the ticker symbol. It says HIVE Blockchain Technologies LTD. They are actually a miner. They're not really into blockchain technologies. They just wanted to sound fancy. $3.12 a share. I've done multiple videos on this. The first one that I did really explains the business. They are in a pickle. Electricity costs $14, $12 to run one of these little Bitcoin computers, and it only earns about $4 a month in revenue. Because of this, it's a net losing operation to plug one in, and the industry has absolutely collapsed. This computer Bitcoin mining industry. These people seem to be some of the smartest ones in the food chain that I've experienced. That's why we're reviewing them all at once. Here's their 5-year chart. They look kind of like a silver miner. Here you have $7 silver, then you have $21 silver. This is when Bitcoin went up to $60,000. They were kicking butt. And then it collapsed. Bitcoin went down to $20,000 a Bitcoin, and then it puckered up this week, went up to 25,000. If you don't think Bitcoin's going to go back to 60,000, most of these companies are screwed by the mechanics of the fact that they can't plug them in. But there are smart companies out there, and the last one reviewed, they started out as a smart company. They found a way to get free electricity. This company, from their income statement, tells me that they did the same thing at some point. They have a source of free electricity somewhere in Canada. Maybe they own their own water wheel. Maybe they invested in their own boiler. I don't know how they do it, but somehow they're able to keep these things powered up and earning money. I'm quite impressed by that. They started off losing money, then they lost a bunch of money, probably reinvestment. Hopefully we'll see this down below. And then they showed us in 2020 that they can make money. They can make $29 million a year and only lose $1.6 million. And they showed us in 2021 with Bitcoin at $60,000 a coin. They showed us they can do $67 million a year in revenue and earn $24 million. Goodness. Then they got all excited and they went crazy, and they did 211 million the next year. This is Bitcoin was even falling. They added a ton. I mean, maybe we'll see a lot of debt, or maybe we'll see dilution. Somehow they bought more computers and got them online, but they continue to get the free power. $79 million in net income. They don't have a power bill with this, folks. That's the difference between these people and the last people we just got done looking at. Bitcoin is falling. You can see this last year, they've gone from 68 million per quarter to 53 million, and today they're at 14.3 million. Their net income is getting big, or a loss is getting bigger and bigger. They're not making money anymore. They're getting pounded. Maybe they, I don't know. Maybe they finally decided to plug them in. Maybe this is the point where you realize that your free power wasn't free, and let's just plug them in. I don't know how to explain the loss. Here you have a nice revenue, 68 and 51. That just has free power written all over it. And then all of a sudden, what's this? A power bill showing up? Did you get a balloon payment on your solar panels? Something happened. It started costing them a bunch of money to plug these things in. And even though they're still running all month and they're earning a third of what they used to earn. This is now a $60 million a year company, where it was just a $211 million a year company. So the company is predictably revenue plummeting. I would say it's down to $7 million next time. The business model changed in March of 22. You'll find out the story of how they had to start paying for their power. Maybe this was all a farce. Maybe this was just good bookkeeping. I don't know. Let's take a look at their balance sheet real quick and see if we can get a clue. We'll see how long these people have to go. The big investment, like I predicted, in 2022, that's how they got that revenue up. They added a ton of computers. Turned out to be the dumbest thing in the world because the more that you plug in, the more you lose money. And it looks like they're paying for power now. So I think what happened is, in my theory, 2021, they only earned 178 million. It was actually their best year ever. I'm not going to say only, but in comparison to this, yeah, only. They made money. They thought they were going to get rich, and they just they decided, okay, well, our water wheel system and our free power generation has a cap, and that cap is right around here at 60,000. And for them to get bigger than that, let's buy more computers and just plug them in because Bitcoin's worth $60,000. It's going up from here, baby. We're going to $100,000 a Bitcoin. And they went out and they bought a ton more computers and didn't acquire much more debt. They paid for them. So now they got an absolute shit ton of computers. Now they're plugging in a shit ton of computers to electricity that they have to pay for. And you can see that starting March of 2022. Free power has its limits. You might have your own power grid. You might have your own windmill. You might have your own thingamabobber, and it allows you to do X amount of revenue at, so-and-so day. Eventually, you're going to have to, make more power, and then you come to realize that this free power came from the stockholder when they bought their first windmill, and then now they got to buy a new windmill with their own money. So I don't know. Once they decided to start plugging them in, which my guess would have been March of 2022, they decided, let's buy a shit ton of them and plug them all in. They can't plug them all into the windmill because the windmill doesn't make enough power, or to the water wheel or solar panel, whatever they got. So they can't plug it into that. So the question is, do we buy solar panels again, or do we plug them in? And they chose to plug them in, and that's what you're seeing here. Absolute pounding. That, or they're out buying solar panels like crazy, and that costs just as much as power anyhow. Companies going down hard. In my prediction, they seem to have a free model that they could run with their whatever their initial investment was. It looked like they started out intelligent all the way up until 2021, until they got greedy and decided they could make money plugging them in, which they can't. And then they bought all those extra computers, and what do you do? Well, you just lose money hand over fist and close, I guess. But yeah, they were making $24 million a year clean. Let's see how long they can last. They have $22 million left. They owe $63 million in debt. They have a ton of these computers. However, the computers are worthless on the market. Nobody wants to buy them because all they do is drain power. And the computers they earn a net loss of money if you have to pay for power. So these people need to buy their own power grid. They don't have enough money to do that. They have 82 million shares outstanding. They could dilute this stock. They could shop it down to $1.50, $1.60. I'm sorry, $1.56. They could chop it down to $1.56 a share. They could raise $1.50 a share. Let's just say how many millions of times? 82 million times. They could raise $82 million by chopping it in half. They might be able to raise $100 million. Their operating cost, $84 million. Could they creep around for another year? I would say yeah, but not if they're plugging them in. If they're plugging them in, they're losing $90 million a quarter. That's going to gobble all of that up. So they got 1 quarter to live if they leave them plugged in. If they unplug them and get us back to the original business model of that was successful, I don't know how much of this they're already committed to. If they committed to buying solar panels or windmills and they have that payment for 30 years, they're just flat screwed. But if they can just tell the power company to go fly a kite, for instance, if they're in that situation, they might be able to come back to be a $70 million a year company. but you're never going to get the $60,000 Bitcoin price again. At today's price is a $20 million a year company. It looks like they're on track right now to be a $60 million a year company. So they have a long way to go. But that's with 5 times more computers plugged in, and that's with paying the big power bill. So I say they got 3 months left before they have to do a dilution. I think it's going to be on the next earnings report. They're going to dilute this stock. They're going to cut it in half. You want to put it for that reason. The earnings are going to be crappier than they ever were. You can see what the price of Bitcoin is. You should be able to predict the earnings probably to a penny. You can compare it quarter to quarter, the average Bitcoin price of the last quarter versus this quarter. You can come up with a revenue number without them even telling you, because you can do math. And you know how much they did in proportion to the quarter prior. So HIVE blockchain, buy some puts, buy some shorts. I say they got 3 months before a major collapse and a year at most of continuing on this path. If they can somehow erase their debt and sell worthless Bitcoin computers, which I don't think they can do, yeah, they're done. And can they get back on the free power method? I don't know. Depends on how green they are. If they went and bought windmills or solar panels, then no, they just invested in 30 years worth of payments on their new power grid. They're going to be paying for power like they were not paying for power back in the day. God, they were so smart in 2020. So impressed. They pulled it off. Look at this, a profit. They pulled off a profit with free power. That's amazing. $70 million with $24 million earned. At 60,000 a Bitcoin, this was possible. Impossible at 20-something thousand a Bitcoin. But yeah, it looks like this year here kept the free power dream alive through 2022, or through a good chunk of it. The beginning chunk of it. Look how good this quarter was. 51 million, and I mean, my God, in 1 quarter, you're killing it. This must have been the peak of Bitcoin before the collapse, or the decision to plug them in. Let's get more and plug them in. That was the big genius corporate decision. Whoops. Or let's buy something really expensive that we can't pay for yet, that will take 30 years to pay for to break even on power. Yeah. This one has an outside chance if somehow the revenue line is going to fall regardless. If they can control this yellow line, they might be able to stay in business. So I would short it for the next earnings report and then just get out of the damn thing. I wouldn't be a long-time player. I wouldn't be a buyer unless you think it's going back up, or you think it's just going to be really small. But it's got a lot of dilution, a lot of collapsing to do before it gets small. It's going to have to dilute twice. So you're going to 150, then you're going to 75 cents. And then the earnings are going to be abysmal. I don't think they can make it through 2 more earnings reports. I don't think they can lose that much more money. I think they have to unplug everything, and that's going to make that revenue fall well below from where they were before, because it's going to be back to free power at best with 1/3 of the revenue. So it's going to be a tiny company losing money. Yeah. What do you think? Check it out. HIVE, Blockchain Technologies. Leave a comment down below. I'm going to do coverage on a few more of these companies. I'm fascinated. I think we can all make double our money real fast on some of these things, and have it be a no-brainer on earnings day. It just seems like we can do the math, and we're going to. And I'll publish it for you guys. You can join in with me and help me drive this thing into the gutter. Sounds like a plan. I'll catch you on the next video. Please subscribe to my channel and like my video, and I will keep them coming. HIVE, Blockchain Technologies, LTD.